talk to you again.
Yeah, Jocke, nice to be on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Well,
Hmm.
it's in the fall, right? And it strikes really hard here in the north, man.
It does indeed. It's freezing. Yep.
Yeah, I actually listened back to the show we did, and yeah, we were touching on some, very basic subjects. And I've
Yep.
also been listening into, I've always been like a follower of Unslaved, so I've been listening to all shows since the beginning.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and also your premiums now.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that I can see there's so many programs now, right? But to see the development,
Hmm.
and I wanted to like ask you, I get the feeling that a lot of the audience is quite involved also with you know, it's mostly like other producers of shows, as I get it. A lot of those types following your work, I noticed.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, I can see, to draw content from your enslaved content is
Hmm.
really, it becomes like a riddling. It's almost like a natural hierarchy in a sense, but I don't want to call it that. But I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I really thought about this, or I've been thinking like this about enslaved for a while because, the people below or the people that surrounds the enslaved is also like connecting and creating content together.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was part of the intention.
Mm. So, I mean, it's just the subjects you have gotten into with your premiums sort of reminds me of your old way of doing when you put stuff on YouTube also.
Hmm.
The more, you give it like straight. But the Ultima Thule program that was really nice, and it sort of inspired me to also look into Lord of the Rings movies
Hmm.
again.
Yeah, the Thule Society. Yeah, that's right.
Um, and Tolkien's work. I was actually sitting today looking into the Tolkien, what happened there. Have you heard that this new? They've been making a new work from the Tolkien's work
Sure.
also.
Oh, yes, and I've seen some reviews of it, and of course, it's just rubbish, like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
There's no way, there's nobody in the world right now who can replicate. We just did a program on British sci-fi, and I hope that that got clear that there are no more Terry Nations, there's no more Chris Bouchers, no more, Patrick McGowan's, not even close. It's laughable. You don't have anything like that. And even though they spend millions of dollars, only the lowest rank and file type of person would think it's great
Yeah.
because it's just rubbish.
But this is kind of interesting because I heard people say that it's really good, and I have people saying that it's terrible, based on the lore. And I was just curious why didn't like Peter Jackson became like the director of
I
this?
know. I
And I
don't
looked
know.
it up. It was actually like a request from Christopher Tolkien's son, Simon, or he criticized Christopher Tolkien. He criticized even the trilogy that Peter did.
Hmm.
But his grandson, because Christopher died 2020, and
Hmm.
now Simon, I, I could imagine, is like involved, and he was the one criticizing. It says that he was a part of the critique, or to say, when Christopher, he was criticizing the trilogy because he wanted
Hmm.
it to stay in the book format.
Yeah, of course, of course. It was good, but made for the public.
Yeah,
The moment you make anything big for the public, you're going to have to not only edit it, but change the storyline for the mugs. It's just as simple as that.
yeah. And I saw, I just wanted to make the point that Simon here, he went to a school called the Dragon School,
Hmm.
also
Yeah,
Dragon
really.
School in England. And
Well, yeah.
this is interesting. I sort of get the feeling of this Draconian, and what is the Draconian? I see it's like the upper echelon or the media, the imagery, the mythology, this kind of more artistic, and you could almost say the highest department in the culture, I would say. Or how do you see this? This is kind of hard to grasp, really, what this really means. It's the highest echelon, as I see it, in the more on the societal level, right?
You mean the Tolkien family?
No. I'm talking about like the dragon school, or the concept of the draconian, or the dragon, because we have similar here in Sweden. I went to a school called Dragonskolan, and it was focused on like media and internationally, and the some part of business, but it's working on this kind of media level, or the more like the Viking shows, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The lore that the Viking image, the Viking theme that we have today, is canonized by the Ordo El Draco society from Sweden, for example.
Really?
Yeah, they call the when you read those books about runes and Viking history, and this more hidden. There's a book called The Night Side of the Runes. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a book on the runes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from a guy called Thomas Karlsson from Sweden, and he's the leader and the head of the Draconian order in Sweden. Ordo El Draco, they call themselves. And I was invited into this order when I showed interest in runes and history.
Yeah, it's sometimes good to see what's happening on the inside. It may not be that bad, but a lot of these orders...
I rejected it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would reject it myself. Not interested. I can learn what I need to learn from books and, things like that. I'm not that keen on. But again, there's all sorts of out there.
Yeah. But this is just a very curious subject to sort of study. The Draconian, we call them, or the Draconian orders.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. I just wanted your view on this, if you had anything to comment, with the Draconian orders and this. It seems to be the most hard study, or it's I don't know, that's my personal look at it. I can't really grasp it.
Well, there's all sorts of societies out there. We're on the outside, so of course it's going to take a long time to find out anything. And then if you join, you can find out more, but the problem is now you're obligated to keep quiet, so yeah, it's not so easy.
No. But like I've been saying in other videos, Sweden is really a good subject to study because it's so small. We have like 10 million people living in Sweden. And it's so central into the sort of driving mechanism even in EU or the Europe. A lot of companies, during World War II, a lot of the German companies, they moved to Sweden when they saw that the Hitler movement, was going overboard, and Sweden became a housing a lot of those companies, and still they are still active today. Those German rooted companies, and the Wallenbergs and those guys were heavily involved in the Nazi Germany and all of this also. They acted even like the mediators between the blocks during negotiations. This family on the in the open between the Allies and the Axis, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very interesting. There's a book on like 1,000 pages on he's called what's it called? I actually have the book here, but there was one of those Wallenbergs in the family that became the guy that was supposed to be the mediator or the neutral, in the dialogues between the blocks, because of Sweden's neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
very funny to say neutrality.
Yeah, exactly.
They support both sides with ammunition, you know. So
That's right.
he's fucking. It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a real joke, and they have even, you know, those Wallenbergs even were accused to be prolonging the you know, the Cold War, for example. So they have a history in wanting to prolong the wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think their interest throughout Europe has been, you know, this is something that needs to be revisited, and I think it's so important. But anyway, I was really, you know, I was sitting with this Tolkien story and the Draconians. But anyway, I want to know a little bit. I want to talk about you, Michael, not my interests. So, do you have sort of anything you want to talk about? I mean, whatever, Michael.
Well, we can talk for maybe 15 more minutes if you want, because I'm gonna have to cut it short. I got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah.
Got a podcast coming up that's kind of a funny one, but with a podcaster called Andy Rouse, and he's kind of open-minded, and he's got a theme that I'm not quite sure what he believes in, but you know, he's got something. He says he takes a different outlook on the alien intervention or alien visitation, and even maybe on even the concept of aliens, which a lot of people do, you know, because the mainstream media is pushing it and pushing it and pushing it with these Ancient Alien series that's been going on now for many, many years. And so I don't know how strong he's going to make his case, you know, but he tends to believe that there's something else to it. And he's very into the Box Saga.
Oh.
And he's had a bunch of idiots on, you know, who try to debunk it. And I think maybe you were on his show at one point. Do you remember him? It's called Deep Share, I think is the name podcast.
Yeah. Andy, yes, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah. So we're gonna have him on Sunday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I don't, you know, he's into the Box Saga, and he says it supports his philosophy that the alien, it's just you know, like a hoax. Now, of course, if anybody says that, it's a bit stupid to say it on one level, because I mean, we've got 500 billion stars out there, you know, millions of galaxies. It's not a hoax, but at the same time, it's good to also turn it around, look at it again, think of, you know, maybe that there are some bogus elements. So, you know, it'd be interesting to have him on. So I'm looking forward to that. But today I was doing the banner and everything, you know, and getting some notes together for that, because we like on Enslaved, not just to, you know, sing to the choir, to turn things around. You know, I'm interested in the alien visitation thing, as you know, but it's also good to see somebody else's take on it. You know, we have to be open-minded in this so that we don't import from the academic world all the bullshit. We don't want to be the same as them. We want to stay very open-minded, and too many podcasts, they don't do that, you know. So when Andy contacted me, it looked like, you know, we could, because I like to do something different every week, you know, not just keep on harping on, you know, the one track. Make sure that there's a little bit of variety. So that sounds good. And then, you know, we just had the astrologer on, Michael Tsarion. That was really interesting, you know, to talk about what's happening in the heavens. Then we had on Blair, you know, is the name he uses, to talk about, again, the occult history of Scotland. But also we wanted to do British sci-fi. You may have caught the thing we just did on Blake 7. That was really interesting because it's a very good series. When you're talking about Lord of the Rings, this is coming from another era. You can't compare anything written back then to anything written today. There's so much good fiction back then, and those were people who were very spiritual people. And yeah, they had very great difficulty working with the BBC, crappy budgets, you know, but it went out to almost, you know, 20 million people in those days. And my question is, if you motherfuckers watched those shows, how could your children be so stupid in Britain and UK? It's like, you know, you're my age, you grew up watching all of these monumentally brilliant shows. that in places like Sweden and Norway, you never had anything like it. These are of the top level. And you've all grown up to be fucking morons, right? You know, wearing the masks and taking the vaccinations and believing everything Boris Johnson tells you, you know, and it's just a really, really bittersweet experience for me to see that these shows, which I would have thought explained every single thing. I mean, right, you know, from top level to bottom, alpha and omega. And then, you know, the people are just, you know, treated it as some sort of entertainment and park their kids in front of some, you know, Netflix and Xbox and all, you know, just what happened? What happened to all that wisdom? Incredible. And these are the same people who grew up on great bands like Pink Floyd and the Moody Blues and, you know, a bevy of really, really great rock bands who also were telling the truth in their lyrics and music. What the hell happened? Is it all just going through one ear out the other? It's very disheartening, you know. And then there's these other idiots talking about great awakenings and look at the people waking up. It's like, could you point out the people who are waking up? I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of I feel that you know technology has the development has been going so fast. I don't know. It's like the human wasn't really ready for it because it gives this very fast. You know, like Netflix and all of this. It's so easy to get entertained. It sort of drains you. But I wanted to comment on Andy you were talking about. I've been working a little bit or a lot with Andy. We even did we started a series called The Roots of Creation, for example, where we started to interview also like Michel Merle, for example, and Ananto from you know the Box Saga people that has been that know Eeyore or knew Eeyore, and you know we wanted to continue that series, inviting like those old people that has been there from the beginning, and but it's sort of it's really hard to get in contact or for them to even be able to get on a platform or the computer at all. So it has been really hard to work on because of that situation. It's really hard to get the timing right because they are sitting in America and all of this. But anyway, Andy is a really he's a really good heart, this guy.
Yeah.
And I really, you know, the problem with the Box Saga is that when people get from America or when they don't have the root language, it's really easy to sort of derail from the saga. And I know that the Box Saga people, they are really like they want to keep it really pure. And if there's just a slight of a diversion from the original canon, they criticize.
Yeah.
And
but I can see the reason for doing that because it does get derailed very quickly.
Yes. It's so because the content is so vast, it's so easy to use it for their own means.
And some of the critics that he had on, they know nothing about history. They're just debunking it for no reason, and they're pretending to know a lot about history, and they obviously don't. It's this kind of it's just nonsense that the internet generates. You got people trying to take down the Box Saga on and they never even give you one argument that makes even slightest bit of sense. They start quoting anthropologists and historians, you know, academically. Yeah, the very guys who are, it wasn't just the Vatican that it went and did the destruction. You've got the whole of academia as a co-conspirator in the falsification of the history of Finland, Ireland, Britain, the world. And then this idiot is quoting those guys, saying, I believe them. Then you must be a fucking moron, you know, to side with the very forces that have suppressed knowledge, and you're still giving them stars. You see what I mean? What is out there on the internet? Yeah, total idiots.
I have a good example, Michael. The last show we did, there was a guy commenting that you were a monster, and you know, he made like 2 comments, and I went into this guy's channel, and he had printed a paper of you, Michael, and burnt it, and said you are not gonna bother me anymore.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's paranoid.
Yeah, it was like, as I understood it, he heard your voice in his head when he wasn't even like at the computer or something. You know, you were after him. I mean,
It's schizophrenic.
yeah, this
Funny,
is the type.
I've had at least seven, maybe 6 to 7 psychopaths in my life.
Hmm.
And it's this personal life. This is not on internet or anything like that. So I can only imagine how many more there are out there, having mental problems. Because I have had nothing but in my personal life so many that were, right up there, right up there. And see, each one of these psychopaths, it's interesting because they do not operate solo. A lot of people get it wrong. Psychopaths often do very well socially. And any particular psychopath or narcissist can have a lot of sycophants and people who just blindly and obediently follow their will. So when I've met psychopaths, they're popular people and they have an army, of friends who are really loyal. And even though those friends might see some things that the psychopath is doing that are just horribly immoral, those people share in the psychopathy and they back them to the hilt. So if you try to do anything about it, like say call the police or, try to expose these psychopaths, this army of minions, some of them very wealthy and all the rest of it, come to their aid. And so there's absolutely nothing you can do. And if you happen to be also young and teenager and you're trying to do something for the good, you won't make any progress at all because it's extraordinary. Some people have a false idea, because I don't know about this guy you're talking about, but in other cases, they can have a lot of backup and they're not just lonely psychos sitting in their, kitchen screaming at the world. They can be very, very worldly wise and they can be popular and they can actually be very good charmers. And I've seen this on, half a dozen occasions, if not more. Yeah. And so, yes, okay, great. We've got the psychopath. I think, people know something about that. But never forget, they also have an army of friends that they can call on, and they will. If you try to go against them in any way, you'll find yourself in big, big trouble. So it's a very interesting subject.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, he deleted the comments, and so I don't know. I wanted to go back and check it once more, but he had deleted the comments.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. But he had like 2 videos burning of you anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had that from the beginning of my career. There's been actually a good many years where there was sustained attack from the Christian right, from fundamental Christians. And that's not, of course, somebody like me gets trolled all the time. But I'm talking about actual systematic attacks from Christians who just never, they relentlessly objected to everything that I was doing. And you get these left-wing anarchists and even Christians. I said recently on a show that I once, when I started for many years, had a lot of respect for Christians because in the conspiracy movement, most of the people who were responsible for, launching it were Christian gentlemen. And I really loved their work and read all of their work, spent money on them, read their books, met them in person, and had a great time. Dr. Stan Monteith, Ralph Epperson, G. Edward Griffin, the list goes on. And later on, when people watch my Origins and Oracles DVDs or maybe heard a few interviews where I was kind of, rude toward Christianity, and I had to say, yeah, because of the Christians, because they showed no love, they showed no compassion, they showed no genteel, getting in contact with respect, and they did it for years and years and years, outright attacks on my career, on my character, on my work. So if I am not in favor of any Christianity today, this is going back, say, to 2005, I'll tell you who's the reason. You are. So you just smoke that in your pipe. That this is a person who had quite a lot of respect for Christianity. I grew up reading C.S. Lewis. But when I went on the internet and saw what a Christian really is, you can stick it. You can stick yourselves and you can stick your God and you can stick your stupid ass religion. It just made me more adamant. And then I had to drop any kind of, favor in my work and became much more driven to do the astrotheology site and, other things. I wasn't in any way going to do that work. That all came because of reaction to Christians, who always know better, right? And always have time to come and tell you where you're wrong and to do it in the most merciless way and then call themselves disciples of Jesus. Well, I'll tell you, yeah, you've made a hater of your religion. You've made an absolute enemy out of me.
I think it's I have a friend, a good friend that has become a Christian, and I sort of asked him because before that he was like scattered, he was searching all of the areas for truths. He even followed your work, Michael, and I used to say like, why don't be like a mental like the martial artist principle, where you can like study all subjects and then you make your own mind, because then otherwise you have to do this belief, or you have to just believe in something. I know that you talked about this on your last show on Unslaved. It was a really good this about light. A lot.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you were decoding like the Bible, and I think this was one of the better shows you made. It's such an important subject about the Bible, because it's the books of books, really. Or it's not a book, it's more of a library, right? It's a collection of works, but still it's the root to all scripture, in one sense.
Yep, it's monotheistic.
Yeah.
Quran is monotheistic. Torah is. Certainly it is and in one way that's fine, because it does deal with the light, and light is vastly important even in the Box Saga. So
yes,
they've got that commonality there, but at the same time they've got some of the most dramatic flaws, and they're very easy to point out. And that is that wherever there is a sunlight, wherever there is light of any kind, there's strong shadow. Go out to a field in the middle of the noonday sun, and you cannot see reality if there's only light. Excuse me. You will also see shadow, the shadow of a tree, the shadow of a hedge or a house or whatever it may be, right? The shadow of the clouds passing on the water, on the puddles.
Stonehenge. It's all about shadow, That's where the calculation comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, I never heard anyone else point that out, Michael. It's about the shadow also. But if you think about it logically, that's where the mathematics also come from, with the stick in the ground, like one what do you call the solar disk?
Yeah.
Like the first, yeah. So astrology has to do, or the shadow is given like the knowledge, as I see it, or the, for example, the moon has also a dark side, and in the Box Saga, the dark side is the female, the shadow side. In Box Saga, the back side of the moon is represented by the female, or she represents the dark side of the moon, and the male, the visual part. But this, this is really interesting. And another thing I was thinking about when you're talking about you're going from like religion to astrology. That's what I see the power shift in Sweden did in the 1500 also. They went from, also in the court, also with the Vasa family, they went from the the Christian canon to the astrology canon within the court.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this is a very interesting subject to. If you have, a long time ago you had an interview with a guy that had some kind of revelation on a hill, and he had put all words out from God and put the sun in there instead. You remember this interview?
No.
Long time ago you did. Oh, if I remember the name. But if you just cross out the word God in the Bible and replace it with light or the sun, it becomes a really interesting rendering. He pointed out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one guy we had on called Gregory Sands. He's excellent. People can look that up.
Well, yeah. Yeah, really interesting subjects, Michael. And did you see that link I also sent you about the Lemminkainen temple?
Yeah, I couldn't understand it was in Swedish, but I got the general idea, yeah.
Yeah, they found this really, really old axe. I don't know what they're gonna do with it. I'm gonna do an interview with Michelle, a 3-part where we're gonna go into things and maybe do an update on the situation there
Yep.
In Finland, and so we will
Good.
see. Yeah. So
Good. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot. I mean, it's always good to talk to you.
yeah, likewise, Michael. I know that you are really busy, but I can say this Andy has a really good heart, and yeah, we have been. He talks about, instead of aliens, it's up there somewhere, like in the
Oh,
north. It's all about perspective and translation, and I think that was interesting. What David also brought up, that the translations corrupts also. Uh, when you
mm.
retranslate and all of this. So yeah,
Oh, it's a huge problem. Absolutely
yeah,
huge. Yeah. It's a tremendous problem.
yeah,
Yeah, we live in our words, we live in our concepts, we live in the terminology. If somebody says God, then you live in that word and you make it real and heaven and afterlife. And, we don't think about, that we're actually just talking about talking. We're talking about words, words talking about words. We attribute concepts to those words. And then, the concept may have no meaning whatsoever, maybe really stupid, in fact, like most of what these Christians believe, right? And all the rest of it. And yet nobody notices it because you get hypnotized by the language and the terminology. I did an article on that called Age of Idolatry, the whole idea of these talismanic terms. It really is a problem, and it's not going to go away because nobody notices that it is a problem. So community, freedom, liberty, government, I mean, just the bullshit is in the words, and we are totally mesmerized and hypnotized by those words. It's really sad, shocking to see.
mm. Yeah. But we are born with the words, and we learn it through. This is like the first thing we really learn on the social
Mm,
level.
correct.
So the mother tongue is so important in that sense because it also contains like behavior. I think there's a Norwegian guy that has been writing a book on this subject, where he tried to explain the importance of the, how it forms our mind. Or he say there's two different kind of language groups on this planet, and it's a third dimensional and a two-dimensional type of
Mm,
language. And I
mm,
think that concept is really interesting because it also correlates with the Box Saga principle, that there has been two types of languages on this planet, the
mm.
Author and the Warner language, for example.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, where the Germanic language group is the Author, and you have the more like Finnish, and what would you call it even? It's so that's the most fragmented language groups today. So now we
Oh,
have a lot of language groups.
yeah, yeah. And that doesn't bode well because, again, we're moving further and further away from the parent language, further and further away from, any real understanding of truth. That, even the meaning, even the words for truth. The Greeks, for instance, didn't have a word like we do for truth. And the words that they did have are really, 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 really important. So, again, we talk about progress, and sure, there's been some scientific, technological progress, but in every other way, we've gone backwards.
Hmm.
And the fact that we've still got these orthodox religions, and it doesn't bode well. I keep hearing people talking about great awakenings, and I just wonder what on earth are they talking about. There's never been a time with more suicides for the teens, and more drug addiction, and more medication abuses, and all of that. Just
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, I see it where it's just I think it's a like a what do you call a false presumption or something, that there are no work required. Everything is perfect. It's gonna take care of itself. Cosmos is saving us all. All of this
Sure.
new
Sure.
age hysteria, we'll almost
Oh
call
yes.
it.
Oh yes. And the whole idea of the Frankfurt School and whatever, to keep us into the pleasure principle, as long as you keep these mugs, with their sex, drugs, and rock and roll, so to speak, then they won't rebel. And it's turned out to be a perfect solution because we're not people today just whip out the cell phone and film it, you know, and it's like, well, yeah, people could be being killed and they don't do a damn thing about it. So it's just to become a voyeuristic
Yeah.
world, yeah, cut off, and there's not a single ounce of real tradition anywhere. And then, but see, you can't live in a vacuum, so we have to fill that vacuum with something, and it's just the stuffing, it's just the rubbish, you know, because you take away the soul of a thing, and then you have to have something there in between, which is belief, which is faith, as you said earlier, you know, and other rubbish, you know, very low level social conformity and sports and, you know,
Instagram, all of this.
yeah, exactly,
It's
exactly.
sort of melts the fucking mind of the youth.
Of
I
course
have
it does.
cousin. I'm the oldest cousin in my sort of generation in my family, and I have like 20 cousins. And the youngers, I mean, holy fuck, they are also they are burning into the
Mm.
technology or the the smartphones. Every kid has a smartphone, getting bombarded by the all the advertisement also is sort
Hmm.
of inside of the advertisements you have the sort of the tweaking also what to think and what's normal and all of this.
Oh, enormously so.
Yeah.
It's a step by step. You don't have to. Oh yes, I've saw that in Sweden. You know, where you go to the train station, there's some father. His kid isn't more than, you know, what, 3 years old, and he never at once looks out the window. He's only looking at the iPad
Yeah.
from morning to night. And if you took that iPad away, there'd be a hell on earth,
Yeah.
you know,
But
for
that's the
that kid.
comfort. That's the comfort to give the kid the iPad.
Yeah.
They have
And there's a
even
beautiful
yeah.
lakes and beautiful trees and sky outside, and they don't even notice it. So yeah,
No.
you can just take a train ride and you'll soon know how bad things are.
Yeah. Well, I think it's sort of ramping up because this new generation will sort of be like the generation that is old now, and I'm gonna be that person. When
Yeah,
I think it's, it was
yeah,
better when I when I grew up.
yeah.
It
Oh,
was
it
like
was
this.
better. It was better, and
Yeah.
that's easily proven. We're going to be dinosaurs. You know, I'm already aware of that. You get a bit of wriggle room because you can just work on the internet. That's fine. But if you had to go out there and be talking like we're doing now to the ordinary folks, you know, you can't even get anywhere near that,
No.
you know, without scaring the shit out of them, you know.
Yeah, you have
And
to
now,
sort of lower the bar real
oh,
low.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Or just not interact at all. And I'm okay with that because I never had much. And, you know, you can find a common ground with something in the past, but now the music has turned so much shit that you can't even talk about music anymore because they don't know what you're talking about if you mention, you know, the Moody Blues or the Doors or the Rolling Stones or Elvis, or they don't even know what you're talking about.
No.
So it's like, oh yeah, fuck off, you know, go fuck off and die, you stupid millennial assholes. You know, that's my attitude. Didn't live this long to tolerate fools, you know.
Speaking about the Lord of the Rings, I wonder this new generation that is coming, if they heard like Lord of the Rings and growing up seeing like the new series, for example. I don't know
Yeah.
how it's received with the youth, but maybe that's what they are referring to. It's just
Hmm.
or if it becomes a gateway into the old, I don't know, but it's
It
a
could
sad
be
thing. It's just a sad
for
thing to
some
see.
people. Yeah. No, but for some people, it is a gateway into the original. But we're talking in general of the way things are, and they'll love that because they watch some Game of Thrones, and then they start liking this Gothic Viking, you know, medieval imagery, and they go for that. But the message inside of it, you know, this can be very, very, very deadly, very multicultural or whatever, you know, the stupid memes that are floating about. Yeah, no, I've never seen in my work, I've never been bothered by these things because I don't serve the human race. I'm not interested in humanity. I already know that they're doomed. You know, I'm always motivated by other things, you know.
Oh, but don't you have like for my I'm the oldest brother in a family, and I have I'm the oldest cousin also in the family of my grandmother, and so I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm sort of raised in being like a good head of the family or whatever, and this is sort of I don't know. When I started to learn things, I did it for my family.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your roles. right?
Yeah.
These are just roles. These are just social roles. They've got nothing to do with the true self. We get used to being in the roles, and those are duties that are imposed upon us, but they've got nothing to do with the spiritual,
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
this,
It's separate things, of course.
yeah, spiritual path.
Yeah, but anyway, it's sort of to be like a. I don't know. This is so engraved into me, so I can't really. It's hard to reflect on even why I do things
Right.
like I do, but I've just have this strong feeling that I need to teach them, or to be a big brother that are older. That was always the case. So yeah, I don't know. I have many reasons why I have began this path.
Yeah.
Also of sheer interest, of course.
Of course, and it's very nice if that can happen. Shared interest in music, shared interest in philosophy,
Yeah.
shared interest in history, But I've never been able to, do it that way or find other people interested in it at all. I had to really dramatically change my life, because of the lack of interest and also how they become your enemies. If you start going toward the truth, you'll find, extended extended conflicts, not just with immediate family members, but even extended friends. Nobody helps you. Nobody gives a shit. So you really have to be fortified.
Yeah.
To do it on your own. It's nice if you can have the opposite. Hey, there's been times when things have been a little bit better, and you're glad for that. But sooner or later, with other people, there'll be a point where they have to get off and go back into the world, because it's an uphill battle. This kind of knowledge, they think it'll end after a couple of weeks or months study. They don't realize it's for life. They don't even know what that means to commit to a thing for life, especially if there's no money in it and no popularity in it. They wonder why they're studying it. Why should I be doing this? And it keeps going on and on and on forever, so to speak. And then you turn to them and say, well, then what is it that is the alternative? What would you like to be doing? Going out and having fun? Yeah, Starbucks and, just, messing about. And then when they get exhausted from their hedonism, which usually happens around 30 years of old, where you've sucked the marrow dry of entertainment and pleasure and whoring about, then they go, okay, I need something in my life. Where's the nearest church? So society's already set up, you see. Say, go mad when you're teenage years, in your 20s. You can just pig out and be hedonistic. You don't need to worry about anything. And then when you get exhausted, then you go become spiritual. So the New Age movement, the churches, when I was surrounded by these people, that's what I saw. I said, you just are worldly to the nth degree with 3 garages full of shit. You've been all over the world partying and having vacations and all the rest of it. Haven't lifted a fucking book, right? But then there's a point comes in the hedonistic person's life where, okay, it fades to gray, so to speak. It becomes, I've done it all. What now? And then you find those bastards, in line at the ashram or at the they try to put on a few beads and put some ashes on their head and suddenly start faking an interest. And then when the internet came along, you get the same bastards now watching the podcasts and checking out, your Jeff Renses or your Coast to Coast. Every one of them is just false, FALSE. But because of the internet, they go with the trend. This is a new thing in town. This is a new gig, and then they watch Ancient Aliens or and everybody gets absorbed in all of this. It's just fashion.
Yeah. In Sweden, we don't go to church when, you were talking about how we are being like the hedonistic or the more get let loose, and we do all of those things like in a very feral, up to the 30s. But in Sweden, they don't go to church. They go to the companies, I noticed.
Yeah.
The companies in Sweden are so cultish. And you're sort of owned by the company on all fucking levels. So
like Volvo.
Yeah. All of this, they have so much on the platform. They need to take care of your health. They have activities. They have after works. Going abroad with them. It's always something. Mingle and.
That's right.
Fucking.
I've seen that. Same in Norway. Same in exactly. Yeah, exactly. And they can always get away with it by saying, "This is communal." And everybody goes, oh, good, yeah, Swedish people need that, you know. So, of course, every country has its nonsense. You know,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Ireland,
yeah.
it's the Guinness drinking. Let's go to the pub and listen to some Irish fucking music and of the lowest kind and drink Guinness all day. Everybody's got that, you know, one, and then that translates into St. Patrick's Day nonsense in New York and being Irish. Being Irish? You haven't a fucking clue what that means, and they're out there, you know, with their shamrocks and their stupid top hats. You know, every country has this this banalification of their culture,
Yeah.
this homogenization of their culture. Every single, you know, everyone, and it's laughable and horrendous, you know. But that's that Frankfurt School idea. The calendar can't have 3 weeks go by without you have a major holiday, a bank holiday, a Mother's Day, a Father's Day, 4th of July, you know, a Guy Fawkes Day. You see, they know that we'll go fucking ape shit. We'll go stir crazy from this monotony of, you know, going to work, being in the cubicle. So they've devised a system by which, you know, the obedient worker will have these days off. It's called the weekend. And you can go and booze the fuck up, you know, down in Stockholm, you know, whatever, you know, you can go and booze your brains out, spend money on the big corporations,
Yeah.
and then we'll give you something back and you'll somehow feel better. You know, that is their church. The church is the bottle. The
Yes.
church is the drugs.
Yeah, and the company, because you know all the friends are there. You know, it's very like hierarchical. What do you call hierarchy? The
That's
companies have the same hierarchy as like in the Templar structures.
Yeah.
Always.
Sure. So, you know, yeah, the days of the week, it's all nonsense. Where did that come from? You know, what is a watch? What is a calendar? You think that's really time? Right down to looking at time. Calendars, watches, clocks. It's all false. It's all manufactured by the human mind.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all fences. They're all barbed wire fences to keep you in this urban fucking gulag. And everybody's smiling away, talking about great awakenings. And all around them is a prison that if you only you could see how horrible it is. The way animals are treated, the way, you know, nature is treated. And we're completely oblivious to any of this stuff.
Yeah. I think the German style is the fucking worst. You know, with the industry type. I worked at a German company that was here in Umeå for like a couple of months. Yeah, I hated it so bad I became sick
Yeah,
of thinking about going there.
Yeah, of course.
And the Germans coming with their fucking clocks and clicking you how many seats you're making in an hour, you know, and all of this. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah. It's all over the world.
Fuck.
And I'm looking at people who love this order, because when you psychologically have disorder inside, you will go to the corporations and you will go to, you know, to these police, and not that that's bad in itself, but the institutionalization. Everyone needs an authority figure, you know. I'm not against those things in themselves, but they attract a certain type of person who is so, you know, congenitally weak, like Wilhelm Reich said, that then they will need that structure. And so a society that provides that structure, yeah, everybody buys into it and votes for the leaders, you know.
Yeah, but it's so, you know, all the policies that are changing within the government go straight into the corporate.
Is that right?
Yes. It's so centralized, and this is what I've been trying to tell with the Wallenbergs and all of this. Really cunning people, you know. I'm just surprised that nobody is not known on a more broad scale, because they are like, I think this is what the Stockholm Syndrome really harkens to. Because in Sweden, like all people, they have sort of this motto to act without being noticed or to be seen. You don't tell your neighbors how much you earn. You don't tell them what you're up to. You don't tell them what, you know, all of this kind of
yes, I know,
cunning thing. It's their motto. It has been, you know, exposed to the entire, been rooted into this society or all people.
Lagom.
Yeah. Lagom, exactly.
Yeah, lagom, it's fucking terrible.
You don't want to stick your, you know, you don't want to stick out.
Yeah, it's stupid. I was so happy one time I was in near Gothenburg, and the Teddy Boys, you know, had the cars. They come out on a celebration day with all the beautiful American cars that they've made, and they all look different, and, you know, play music, and it was wonderful to see. And I was thinking, one day a year, all the Swedish people will show a little bit of style, a little bit of Western difference.
Yeah.
The rest of the year, you might as well just be, George Orwell.
Yeah, red houses. Everyone has red houses, this.
Yeah, that's right. I know.
Nobody wants to stick out, and
Nobody wants to stick out.
This kind of motto is exactly what the Wallenberg stands for.
Oh wow. Yeah, conformity.
Yeah, I think it's the most corrupted country in Europe, actually. Yeah.
It's up against some competition.
Yeah, but I mean, people waving democracy.
You're right.
I saw a brilliant picture of Jacob Wallenberg holding a silver plate with all of the, different, what do you call it? The ones you vote for, the parties. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there was a silver plate. Jacob Wallenberg was holding the plate with all of the parties on it.
Yeah, there you go. What a symbol. See, they don't mind telling you. They know you're so under pressure. Your mind is so controlled. They don't even mind giving it to you, but it's symbolism, and nobody can read the fucking symbolism. This is where the ignorance factor really is.
No,
I've seen the only country in my life that I've ever saw people, grown men, actually crying when Bill Gates flies into the airport is in Sweden and turns up on Swedish TV. I see what looks like a holy place. Everybody's gathered around the TV. I've seen grown men crying with trembling, with with this passion and this respect for the great man himself. And I'm looking at them all going, are you fucking kidding me? You're almost in prayer over these bastards, these philanthropists. And if I was to say one word about who they really are, they'd turn on you and just crucify you. It's like, what the fucking, is there any men left in this country?
No. I don't know what they're trying to do, because during the Corona strategy, they couldn't keep Sweden closed, and they were a major, distributor of the vaccines, with the Pfizer companies owned by Wallenberg. This is they could. It was exactly like in World War II. Sweden needed to be running.
You've been to Gothenburg, right?
Yes.
Well, it's the same as in Stockholm. They've got an area called Guldheden, and that is almost a city of medical houses. Yep, a city. Like in America, it would be several blocks.
Yeah, this is how they do. I mean, where I live here in Umeå, there's a mental asylum that did the most, what do you call it, the lobotomy?
Is that right?
In the world.
Oh no. In Sweden, of all places.
Yeah, in Umeå, the same town I live in.
That's disgusting.
Yes. Yeah. This,
absolutely disgusting.
The first racial biology institutes were also in Sweden. This is sort of like the Hitler mentality came from here.
Yeah.
They made studies on the Samish.
He didn't invent it. Yeah,
No. I mean, it's just fucking. You can read about Sweden. It's will blow your mind, I tell you.
Oh, I know. I can well believe it. You see, this is the poison that comes in with any place which is pure. Think of Ireland as well.
Yeah.
It was a pure vortex. It was a high culture. Everything you see the Pope wearing and the bishops today came from the Celtic Church in Ireland. And the Celtic Church, they stole it from the Druids from before them. So they're running on everything they've got came from these pure countries.
Yes.
And Sweden is no different.
The pagans built it. They built the entire, the old royal pagans families, like the Vasa family. They are the ones who built this monstrosity, but maybe for other means.
Yeah.
But then, when those, Gustav III assassinated in the late 1700s, then afterwards, Wallenberg and the other families take over, and they just run the machinery that they built.
In my earlier work, many years ago, nearly 20 years ago, when I spoke about the assassination of the Swedish king, I was criticized. People wanted me to shut up about that.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. I've been using descriptions of Sweden 20 years ago in my work, and people were mocking it and telling me to shut up. So you don't even know who the hell that is.
Yeah, but this is just it's just this is so it's a revelation very much to look into this, because as I see it, because they own all of the infrastructure that is important today, like the telecom cables, and the
Well,
very
Telenor,
infrastructure. The,
Telenor, and
yeah, all of this, the infrastructure that builds the cashless society are the
then you
main
said last time
pushers.
this Ericsson. You said last
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. ABB, even Saab, the military complex is owned by them,
Oh my God.
and they make the best fighters in the world.
Mm.
They have this EMP technology within the Air Force, so they can
Mm.
just you can imagine that.
Yeah, yeah. These countries have grown. Well, they're part of the global thing that's run from
Yeah,
Switzerland. It's run from Brussels.
yeah. I think Switzerland is a satellite. To be honest, it looks
Really?
that way. Yeah, yeah. Through many companies that they own are seated in Schweiz. It's a huge part in the banking infrastructure that they own.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah,
They're
so
neutral too, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sweden and Switzerland was neutral during World War II, the only countries in Europe.
And it has been whistle blown by many films, but people think it's fiction. The movie The Formula with Marlon Brando, there's been many movies have exposed this, um, and people just think it's fiction. You can't, because I've tried that experiment of sitting down, not saying anything, putting on a movie, talk about it later, see what the comments are. Fucking useless, right? It's just they don't get it at all. And even if they happen to maybe say a couple of intelligent things, yeah, but they want coffee 5 minutes later, and it's out of their heads.
Mm.
There's no contemplation, no thinking. Hey, who made that? I wonder. No. Maybe now you get a bit more of that. But from the 70s onwards, you could have the most extraordinary movies exposing things, and nobody would even think twice about it. There's so many brilliant films,
Yeah.
back from the 70s and 80s, exposing, like 3 Days of the Condor, an amazing movie with Robert Redford and the Swedish actor Max von Sydow, right?
Uh, what was the name?
Max von Sydow.
I don't know this actor, to be
Yeah,
honest.
he acted. He was very friendly with Ingmar Bergman.
Okay, Ingmar Bergman. Okay, that one I know. There
Yeah, well,
there are actors. There are actually acting dynasties coming out from Sweden. Like
yeah, that's right there.
yeah, there was one guy called the Ekman family who did the. It's called it's like they actually called out the Wallenbergs, calling them
Yeah.
Rothschilds.
Oh my God.
The family is. It's like 10 movies this Ekman did about this, and it has become a really big thing when it came out, and it became like a culture around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jönssonligan is called
Yeah.
Jönssonligan. Yeah,
It happens. It happens
yeah,
because people won't shut up. Look at the Matrix films, or So yeah, you had this even back in the 70s. I can list a whole bunch of movies. A very good one is called Agency, just Agency, and it's about subliminal advertising in the media
hmm.
and how politicians use it. Yeah, this is back in the mid 70s. Agency with Lee Majors, and on I could go. And these movies leave no stone unturned, talking to you about not only the Illuminati families, but the technology that they're using, like Brotherhood of the Bell and many other phenomenal movies. So it is absolutely impossible to understand how generations watching those films, growing up on that, and the music, could then breed a race of fucking idiots that you get to the millennial level, who don't know anything about anything, but have the arrogance to tell you don't know what the hell is going on. It's really frightening.
Maybe it's too subliminal. Subliminal.
Yes,
Because
that's one of the answers.
when I listen to like Tolkien interviews or this sort of elk of people, it's they really sound like a different breed of humans almost. I mean,
They are.
the way they talk,
Hmm.
the distraction from
Yeah.
the television and all of this technology has gone so far off the rail, if you ask me. I mean,
You've seen the
yeah,
you've seen the movie Network, right?
not network, no.
Yeah, with with Peter Finch. That is a mind blower. I mean, there's almost, you cannot even think of the script writer, and like you say, some of the actors, some of the thinkers, some of the writers, and even imagine today. If you go back and look at their videos, sometimes you get it on YouTube. There's an old interview with somebody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like what you're saying, it is it's like, whoa, where's their head? Great.
yeah.
And then you turn over to something modern, and it's like,
It's so far away.
It is.
I can't even imagine, like Tolkien, for example, imagining how low we have sunk today. It's like Jim Chestnut also said that we have never been this low.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, with our soul power, for example. But that's a different story. You know, with the.
Well, rest in peace, Jim.
Yeah,
What a man he was.
yeah. You know, I have like 10 films with him that I should release someday. But
oh yeah. Put them together in a montage or something.
Yeah, something like it. I don't know. It's just very hard for me to watch because I spoke to him like 2 hours each day for
sure.
many years. So.
Well, Jocke, I'm gonna have to get going, mate. But it's always good to chat with you.
Yeah, it was a sort of you know, it's harsh times. This fall time is really a stressful time here in Sweden, man.
Yeah, it gets really cold and everything.
Yeah, but also in the social climate, and you know, like I've been talking about before, each company is so cultish, and it's always like a pressure from every fucking angle. You know.
Really?
Yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. So.
Oh my god.
Well, it's good talking to you too, Michael.
But
you're also this.
Is it the same thing with the company you're working on now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every bigger company, but the thing is that it's only big companies that survives these days with the gas
That's
prices, electric. You know, they are making a clean house sweep now.
Yes, I see that here too. Yeah.
The totalitarian state is really marching forward now.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Very quickly now. Canada, Ireland is the same.
I even called out it, you know, with this energy crisis, the economic collapse almost on the brink on, you know, they are scaring people on all fronts. And now also when they have a right-wing government in Sweden, they are scaring people even more. They're gonna go more police state. They're gonna, you know, they are stepping up the military. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening in Sweden. And
well, thanks for keeping me in touch of it.
Yeah, I can talk about it for hours, man. I'm following like everything because so much is happening now.
Really?
Yeah, something is gonna. I talked on another program that I did when I called out that there's gonna be a shift, especially in the infrastructure throughout Europe and so, because I can see when I began starting to follow the Wallenbergs, you know, I can see where they are going.
Yeah, of course.
And I have a complete faith because of the historical background on them that they are the hidden rulers of Sweden, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is on paper that are clearly showing that also.
Well, you should write a book with that title. That's a great title.
Yeah, but
or do a video with that.
Yeah, I'm working on this video, but I'm never satisfied. You know, I'm never satisfied. It's the same with the music I do. I need like a partner, actually. But anyway.
That can be a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm used to work alone, but I never publish anything.
It can take time.
Yeah. Maybe.
What age are you now?
31.
Oh, it's still early days.
Yeah, I'm working. You know, you want to be sure. I was working on this big painting. That's, you know, I wanted to put it on the wall. That brought me into Box Saga.
Mm-hmm.
And further on, just because I wanted to make sure that the painting was correct in the structure. I was working with the runes and trying to make like I call them soundboard, because I've been making paintings that are visual with colors, you know, like a soundboard where you can I don't know how to explain it. You need to see it, Michael. I can't really explain it, but it's a visual for musicians, that they can see all the chords and the representation in color, and I try to wrap in the astrology into it, and even runes, and it's hard to describe, but this is maybe something I will publish later in my life.
Like a mural?
Yes, but it's like one board that you can draw as much information as you can as a musician, you know. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, well, keep playing it no matter what. Forget about publishing, as long as you're playing it. That's the key thing.
I do that all the time. So.
Yeah, me too.
That keeps
Good
me
man.
happy. That's good. Okay,
Yeah, I'm the same.
good talking to you, Michael.
Okay.
I hope
Hey,
you're
hey.
doing fine too.
Yeah, it's just a bit busy right now. I got a lot to do,
Yeah,
with the work and everything.
I understand you.
But I'm making progress slowly.
That's good. I appreciate your work really
Thanks, man.
much. That's a really good, like, yeah, that's really good.
You're
That's
welcome.
very good.
Yeah, check it out. I'm glad you are. Hey, do.
Okay, hey då.